history in a chapter he called called it The Silence. It's in the book Founding Brothers. And so I don't want to go into it too much detail because I don't have a lot of time. But just as a constant reminder that there are various people trying to do various work. The last time there was a big major question on the table. It may have been legal, but it wasn't lawful in God's eyes. And so who you remind me of at the Texas Right to Life are people like Frederick Douglass. Because while Frederick Douglass, for those of you not familiar with him, he was an ex-slave. He had personal story and witness to what was going on during that time. And so he used the rest of his life to try to work with the legislature to move forward the idea that he knew was God's heart, to rid this horrible, horrible crime against humanity from the midst of not just our country, but perhaps even the world. And the Texas Right to Life, to me, are doing some of the same things. And even though it's not always perfect, because I know that there are those, like even during slavery time, Garrison, he wanted absolute. In fact, when the framers finished their Constitution, he said that they were documents from hell because it didn't abolish slavery at the time. And it was Frederick Douglass that told him, no, we'll be able to work with it progressively. We'll be able to do something about this. And there were other various players, as there are various players in our movement today. And so what we have to do is constantly encourage ourselves that one day we will get to the point that this big moral question will be removed from our society, and we'll be able to really celebrate life. Because we have to we have to be that encouraged that it will happen, because we have to realize, someone mentioned earlier, the doctor talked about God, that he has this great reward for those. Well, he does. He has a great reward for those that are constantly working on his behalf, that are remembering those 4,000 women that in this society today got up and said, today's the day. And they were told by their doctor to not have any dinner last night, or, so-called doctor, to not have any dinner last night. And then they go into a room that it's pretty stale a little bit, but it has, carpet on the floor, maybe a little picture of a flower on the wall, and you just kind of look down quietly. I can very much describe these rooms. You go in the back and you get put to sleep. Unless, of course, you're in a pregnancy for quite some time, because if you're late termer, then you're going to have to stay awake through their so-called procedure, because you're going to have to deliver a dead baby after they scar it and burn it to death and or poison it to death. Then you'll have to just deliver that dead baby. But normally, because most abortions are in the first trimester, they put you to sleep, and then you go out empty, and you go out changed forever. And then we start hearing the different stories from people and how it haunts them later in their lives, and how deeply abortion has hurt and scarred our society. The reason I can describe it so well is because I've been in their so-called safe, legal, rare clinics more than one time. In fact, it wasn't until after the fourth time that I went in and had an abortion that I had a gut instinct way down deep inside. There has to be something wrong with killing your offspring. Maybe the feminists just don't have this one so right. I was talking to somebody earlier. They asked me about some of my media presentations, and I told them I got one opportunity to do that show, The View, and it was horrible. I'm telling you, God owes me goodie points. I was doing some serious penance getting between Barbara Walters and Joy Behar to do the show, The View, but I didn't do it on purpose. They were just desperate for a black, because Star Jones had left, and they have to be so politically correct that they always have to have at least one black. Now they have two, but I guess Whoopi doesn't count because she's a lesbian, so we can't figure is she the black or the lesbian. But they're just doing this total diverse thing. But on this particular show, they were really desperate, but Michael Moore was going to be the guest, so John Stossel called and said, you should go and do the show now. And I did want to talk to John, to Michael Moore. I just wanted to ask him why he went to Cuba and Canada to see socialized medicine. He could have went to South Central LA. In fact, you can go to any inner city in the country and see how government runs healthcare. Maybe we shouldn't want that for our nation. But in order to do that, to ask him that question, I had to sit between these two ladies. And the reason I'm telling you this is because my bishop had told me a long time ago, when you're on national television, you got one shot. So you're not talking to them, you're talking to the millions of people that watch them, that are sitting on their couch looking for truth. So just tell your story, why you believe what you believe. So I had my opportunity to tell my story, and the reason I'm sharing that with you right now is because I mentioned my abortions, and it made Joy uncomfortable when I said I'd gone in 4 times. And she said, well, why would you abort so many times? And I said, well, if it's right one time, why is it wrong 20? And that show went downhill from there, because she just didn't know what to say after that. But when you really think about it, why would it be wrong 20 times if we live in this idea of moral relativism? You know, when you think about law and disciplines of law, every single discipline there are in our society, we know that there are rules that govern those disciplines, whether it's math or science. We know that there are rules to govern them. There are rules to govern music and art. Well, I was in an art museum. I told somebody the other day I was in this art museum. So maybe the rules to art are a little bit flexible because it was in New York City, and it was a piece of glass up against the wall. And the name of the art piece was Glass Against the Wall. And people were walking by looking as if it had some significant meaning. So, you know, maybe in art we can stretch the rules a little bit. You can't get rid of 4 primary colors though. But there are rules to govern every single discipline. There are rules to engineering. Today, I was telling my friends that came and got me and took me to lunch, a 2-hour lunch at a wonderful restaurant, but then I found out that my hotel was next to a mall, and obviously there are differences in genders because I would have preferred to be at the mall than the lunch, but you know, I was telling them about coming in here today and how bumpy it was. This was that flight was not pleasant, and so I'm so glad that the pilot knew the rules to pilot it and to being a part of that, but also that somebody knew the rules to engineering to make sure that plane stayed together. Absolutely every discipline in society, we know that there are rules to govern those disciplines. There are rules to medicine. In fact, recently, a couple of years ago, actually, my knee turned 50, and I had to go to the doctor because, you know, you get to wear, you know, the glasses. That's why I don't even write notes, because I'm not about to put on glasses. I'm too vain to be standing in front of people with glasses, and I'll just have to memorize the whole Bible so I don't have to never read it in public if I get go to church. But anyway, my little knee turned 50 years old, and I really don't like the doctors. Well, I like doctors now because I like all underdogs, and so I like doctors and bankers and capitalists and all these other people now because I'm going to go for the underdog, But I used to, you know, they get on your, come on. And they're in conspiracy with the nurses because as soon as you walk in, they have this scale. Every doctor has a scale. The minute you walk in, it's like, why do I have to stand on that? I came in, my knee hurts, okay? And they want to tell you all this other stuff about how you're living and how you're eating and other things. But anyway, when he mentioned, well, first he looked at my high heel shoes, and I said, oh, no, don't even go there because there are rules of fashion, too. So I know that that's not what's wrong. I'm going to do my own.